Hello, my name's Mary Janowski, and today I'd like to talk about nitrates in double crop forages. Many of the species that are used as cover crops and grazed can be nitrate accumulators. Our warm season species such as corn, millet, sorghums, Sudan grass, sorghum Sudan crosses, and sunflowers are all nitrate accumulators. Cool season species such as brassicas, which include turnips, radishes, collards, rape and kale, as well as our small cereal grasses, oats, cereal rye, and wheat are all nitrate accumulators. There are many factors that affect the level of nitrates in our forages. Plant maturity is one of them. Nitrates are higher in younger plants and tend to decrease as the plant matures. This means that as the growing season is extended, nitrate concentrations tend to decrease. Thus, cover crops planted after wheat tend to have lower concentrations of nitrate in the fall than do cover crops planted after corn silage. Nitrates can be a potential issue even in non-accumulator species if those plants are immature. Nitrogen availability is a key factor in the level of nitrates in your forage. The risk of nitrate toxicity increases when nitrogen availability to those plants is high. So fields with excessive nitrogen remaining from the previous crop are at great risk. Seed corn fields or hail-damaged corn fields are of concern. Also, cover crops that have had high rates of additional nitrogen applied to stimulate their forage growth can result in high nitrates. Growing conditions are another key factor. Any growing condition that slows plant growth can affect the level of nitrates. We're all familiar with drought stress resulting in higher nitrate levels, but in cover crops, stunted growth due to herbicides can also increase nitrate levels, as well as plant disease. So what do you need to do? Well, the first step is to sample those forages. Walk in a random zigzag pattern across the field, hand pluck to a height which you intend to graze from multiple locations in the field, and then place that directly on ice or on ice packs. This is to slow down the enzymes in the plant that can take nitrate and create nitrites, as well as to slow down bacterial activity. You want to then take those samples and deliver them directly to the lab, or if you're going to ship them, freeze them for 24 hours prior to shipping, again, to preserve that sample. And you also want to avoid shipments late in the week so that those samples do not get stuck on the delivery truck or in the lab over the weekend. Once you get your results back, you want to look at what is the risk based off of the level of nitrates. On this table we have nitrate nitrogen in parts per million and the risk for unadapted animals. Anything less than 1100 parts per million is considered safe. Anything from 1100 to 2100 has a moderate risk for nitrate toxicity. Forages from 2100 to 3400 are at high risk, and anything greater than 3400 is at severe risk. Now, labs do vary in the way they report nitrate levels. The two most common are nitrate nitrogen and nitrate ion. If your analysis is nitrate ion, to convert to nitrate nitrogen, you simply multiply by 4.43. If it's in a percent and you need to get it to a part per million, then you also need to multiply by 10,000. So there are some management practices that you can use to reduce risk when grazing moderate to moderately high nitrate cover crops. These 5 management practices are making sure the cattle are full before you turn them out, using lower risk cattle, adapting those cattle, grazing the forages lightly, and grain supplementation. For any samples that are at severe risk, so greater than 3400 parts per million, the safest alternative is not to use them. So the first management practice is making sure the cattle are full before putting them out on fields. This is a good management practice regardless of the nitrate level, because this slows down the intake of those cover crops initially to allow the rumen to get adjusted. Now our key thing is the rate of nitrate intake. The conversion of nitrate to nitrite in the rumen occurs much more rapidly than the conversion of nitrite to ammonia. Nitrite is the toxic compound that can enter the blood, bind to hemoglobin, and make it incapable of transporting oxygen, and thus the animal can suffocate. If we can have a slow intake of nitrate, we can then keep the flow of nitrite to ammonia to keep up with the flow of nitrate to nitrite. Bottom line, don't put hungry cattle out on high or moderately high nitrate forages. The second key management practice is to use a lower risk cattle. Pregnant cows are at greatest risk because the fetus is particularly susceptible to low oxygen and abortion can result. Thus, using open cows are the best option, followed by growing calves. Gradual adaptation is a key management practice. Animals can safely adapt to higher levels, and this is because the bacteria that can utilize nitrite and convert it to ammonia can increase in numbers as nitrite availability increases in the rumen. The key factor here is to keep a slow but steady increase in nitrite so the bacterial numbers can keep up and we do not have a large increase in nitrite in the rumen that can get into the bloodstream. So we suggest to adapt cattle by starting grazing the lowest nitrate fields first and then working your way up to the highest. Grazing higher nitrate fields lightly is another key management practice. Allowing the cattle to selectively graze plant parts that are lower in nitrate concentrations will decrease nitrate intake. Leaves are lower in nitrates and cattle naturally select leaves. Forcing the cattle to eat the stem, especially the lower stem, will increase nitrate intake. The final management practice I want to discuss is using grain supplementation. This can be particularly useful for high nitrate, lower quality forages because we can supply extra energy to the rumen microbes to convert that nitrate to bacterial protein and minimize nitrate concentrations. However, this may not be a useful strategy with high quality forages such as brassicas because the ruminally available energy is already quite elevated. So in summary, there is risk of high nitrates in many cover crop systems, so it's a good idea to get your cover crops tested. Grazing cover crops that contain moderate to moderately high levels of nitrates is not without risk, but the 5 management strategies that we just discussed can help you graze them successfully. For more information about nitrates in livestock feeding, see our Nebguide. For more information about using double crop forages, go to our Beef Forage Crop Systems webpage on our beefunl.edu website.